Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, and welcome to another weekend book review. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
All right, so we're diving deep into live streaming culture today. It's a lot more than just video games, though. It's music, activism, mental health, even healthcare. Crazy, right? We've got research papers, articles, and even some stories from, well, streamers themselves.
Yeah, a really broad view. We want to go beyond just the surface level stuff, and kind of uncover those surprising ways that it's shaping our world.
Totally. It's easy to think of it as new, but it's got a pretty long history, actually. To understand where we are now, I guess we got to go back to the beginning. So what about the early days? Fill us in.
Well, it actually goes back to the 90s and early internet cam culture. Teresa Senbuff and her work on Cam Girls, those women were really pioneers broadcasting their lives online.
Wow.
And there's this documentary, We Live in Public, that really captured this raw early period, It even kind of foreshadowed trends we see in live streaming today. Pretty interesting.
That is fascinating. So then from those early experiments, you had platforms like Justin.tv, which eventually became, well, the giant Twitch. But it wasn't just technology pushing live streaming forward. The COVID-19 pandemic, it really accelerated everything, right?
Oh, absolutely. It felt like overnight. Everyone was streaming, Zoom, concerts, cooking shows, you name it. Everything went virtual. A profound shift, really. It reshaped how we connect, how we create, how we, consume content.
For sure. When I think live streaming, I think gaming, like most people. But from what we've been reading, that's just a small part of it. You've been digging into all this. What are some of the less obvious areas where it's having a real impact?
It's everywhere. It's remarkable. Activism, for example, during the Black Lives Matter protests, Twitch was huge for citizen journalism. Streamers like Zombie Unicorn, they provided real-time coverage, connecting people online and offline. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, blurring those traditional boundaries. It's given a voice to communities that might not have had one before. Speaking of communities, our research takes us to Brazil. Live music streaming is huge over there, right?
Brazil's unique, high adoption rate for social media and all. Live streaming is a part of their culture.
Oh, and that story about Marília Mendonça, the Brazilian country star, her YouTube live stream from her living room back in April 2020, over 3.2 million viewers. Just hanging out. Shows the power of live streaming. That connection, it's personal.
Very down to earth, but it does make you think about the differences in resources. Established artists with big productions versus Mendonca's simple setup.
Not everyone has equal access, even in live streaming, but hey, it gives independent artists a new way to reach fans, right? Build their careers. Now, something we all need to think about, mental health. The impact of live streaming on mental health. For both streamers and viewers, too.
Streamer burnout is a real thing.
Right.
The pressure to be online constantly, it's intense.
There was a study during COVID on Twitch streamers. Many felt they had to appear strong for their community, even when struggling themselves.
Wow. That's rough. It really shows the emotional labor involved, and that burden to meet expectations.
But streaming communities, they can be incredibly supportive too, especially for people who feel isolated. That sense of belonging can be powerful.
Absolutely. The key is finding a balance, promoting responsible streaming and being mindful of the challenges,
For sure. Now get this. We're diving into live streamed surgeries. Fascinating and ethically complex.
Yeah. A brain surgery and a breast cancer surgery, both streamed by Methodist Dallas Medical Center, really exposes the way things are presented visually, the rhetoric and the gender dynamics in medicine.
Like in the brain surgery, the chief of neurosurgery and the PR person, both men, narrate the whole thing. They emphasize the male surgeon's expertise. It reinforces those ideas about men dominating medicine.
Right, and you barely hear from the patient. It's like their agency is gone.
The breast cancer surgery brings up the whole intersection of race, gender, and health too, especially with live streaming.
Olivia Banner's concept of misogynoir comes into play here. It's the racism and sexism aimed at Black women specifically. The stream focuses on the tech and the surgery's success, but not the patient's individual experience, or the social factors that contribute to health disparities. It's interesting.
It makes you think. Even in medicine, harmful stereotypes can be perpetuated through live streaming, even if it's unintentional. Now, we got to talk about toxicity and harassment. It's everywhere online, but women streamers face unique challenges.
Toxicity, by the way, we mean cyberbullying, trolling, sexual harassment, anything that makes the environment hostile and unsafe.
Our research mentions Paladin Amber, a Twitch streamer fighting toxicity. She's got some really creative moderation strategies.
I love her breaking news segments. She calls out harassment in a funny way, making it a punishment and entertainment. Brilliant.
It's great to see streamers taking a stand. But it shouldn't just be on them to police their communities. Platforms need to step up too. Better tools, more support.
Completely agree. It has to be a collaborative thing.
Now for the dark side of live streaming. Swatting and Zoom bombing, these are serious with a real consequence.
Swatting's terrifying. False reports to the police, leading to armed raids on innocent people. Tragic outcomes have already happened.
That incident in Wichita back in 2017, remember? A gamer was swatted, and Andrew Finch, an innocent man, was killed. Online harassment can be fatal.
And Zoom bombing, people think it's a prank, but it can be so disruptive. Imagine having a meeting hijacked by offensive content. Distressing, disruptive, even unsafe.
Both swatting and Zoom bombing, they show how vulnerable live streaming can be. We need better security. But it's deeper than technology. It's understanding the why.
They didn't just appear out of nowhere. Online disinhibition, the spread of extremist ideas on sites like 4chan and Reddit, and sadly a lot of toxicity in parts of the gaming community, it's all connected.
Let's talk about diversity, specifically hobby game streaming, the Dice Tower, the YouTube channel, all about board games.
They added Suzanne Sheldon and Mandy Hutchinson, two women of color, as podcast hosts. It caused a controversy. It's white geek privilege, plain and simple.
What do you mean by white geek privilege?
It's like certain groups, mostly white men, feeling like they own geek culture, you know?
Yeah.
They resist inclusivity. Some viewers didn't like Sheldon and Hutchinson, said they shouldn't be there. Classic gatekeeping.
Disappointing, but not surprising. Power dynamics and inequality, even in online spaces, about shared hobbies.
And representation isn't enough. It's about creating communities where everyone feels welcome, respected, valued.
Now let's go to South Korea. Queer live streaming. LGBTQ plus YouTubers face unique challenges there, but they found ways to connect and resist too.
Yingyeo culture is important here. The Korean work hard, play hard idea, it's all about seeking pleasure and instant gratification. Can be good or bad for live streaming.
So how does that affect LGBTQ plus streamers?
Well, on the one hand, it allows them to explore identity and sexuality openly and playfully. There's Yejiju, a lesbian YouTuber known for her humor. She uses live streaming to build community and challenge norms. Her Gujoma dance is a great example. It's a satirical take on homophobia, humor and social commentary combined.
Amazing. Live streaming is a tool for self-expression and social change. But you said double-edged sword, right? What are the downsides?
The focus on pleasure and fun can lead to objectification, especially of marginalized groups. The case of Gagoja, a trans woman streamer, is a good example. Makes you think about the ethics of consuming her content. Power dynamics are everywhere, even in spaces that celebrate queer identity.
Good point. Even within a community, there are different experiences and vulnerabilities. But let's move on to the live stream drag show Black Girl Magic, celebrating Black identity and queer joy.
Black Girl Magic is resistance, reclaiming space, celebrating Black queer aesthetics. The show mixes historical imagery, pop culture references, and Black femme aesthetics. It's captivating and powerful.
The Vixen, the host, she creates a positive and supportive online space. Community care and resisting toxicity, an example of how to build an inclusive and empowering community.
And Black Girl Magic isn't just about celebrating Black queer identity, it's about using live streaming for economic empowerment and social change too. They encourage viewers to donate to LGBTQ plus nonprofits, mutual aid, and the performers directly.
Cultural expression in action. Now, onto the world of speedrunning.
Fast pace.
It's so niche but fascinating. And games done quick. GDQ is the center of it all, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's like a telethon, but for gamers. Instead of singing and dancing, they're racing through video games, all to raise money for charities. Doctors Without Borders, Prevent Cancer Foundation, millions of dollars raised.
I used to watch those streams, that geeky camaraderie and intense competition, all for a good cause. But it's huge now. How has live streaming been part of that?
Twitch has been huge for GDQ. Global audience, you know, connecting with donors and fans live. But GDQ has also changed speedrunning itself.
Awesome.
Higher performance standards for sure. But now there's this expectation for showmanship too. It used to be about loving video games, the thrill of the challenge. Now speedrunners have to be entertaining, engage with the audience, tell stories. The whole experience has to be captivating.
It's almost professionalized, a hobby that was once pretty underground. But it seems like GDQ hasn't forgotten where they came from. They're all about inclusivity, a safe space for everyone.
Oh yeah, they have strict rules against hate speech and harassment. They ban streamers who are toxic, even if it happened outside of GDQ. And their mascot, Velocity the Velociraptor, is gender neutral. A small detail, but it shows their commitment.
It's great that they're trying to be welcoming, but some people say their bans aren't always consistent. What do you think about that? Can you really balance safety and fairness when you're applying these community guidelines?
That's a good question. It's a challenge for all online communities. I think GDQ's trying, at least. They're having those tough conversations publicly, trying to figure it out. It's a process. There will probably be mistakes.
Yeah, there's no easy answer, especially when it comes to something as big as this. But it's good that they're taking it seriously.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Live streaming and its impact on labor, surveillance, and social justice. It can be used for good and bad.
The panopticon idea is helpful here. It's all about how surveillance and control work in society today. Think of a prison where guards can see everything, but prisoners never know if they're being watched. In live streaming, it makes you think about algorithms, data, and privacy. Platforms like Twitch gather so much data on users, it can be used in all sorts of ways.
A little creepy. But you're saying live streaming can be a way to fight back against that kind of surveillance.
Exactly. Content creators have more agency and visibility with this. They can challenge exploitation, push for social change, and connect with people in new ways. Think about the Industrial Revolution. Women were excluded from public life, but they found ways to resist. Theaters and trains, they used these new technologies to be more present in public. Interesting parallel. So modern streamers are using live streaming to challenge that corporate control and promote their own ideas.
Exactly. They're reclaiming the days, turning the tables on surveillance. Visibility can be empowering. Live streaming gives marginalized voices a platform to be seen, heard, and connected in a way that challenges those old power structures.
Powerful. So with all these complex issues, are there any positive trends?
Absolutely. The rise of comfy streams is one. They're all about being welcoming and supportive. Shared interests, positive interactions, a sense of belonging. Online spaces don't have to be toxic, They can be places for genuine connection.
I love that. Our own live streaming project, The Arena, is kind of like that. We invite academics to talk about games, share what they know, and challenge these traditional boundaries.
It's been awesome. Insightful conversations, a diverse audience, so much learning. Live streaming can be such a powerful tool for education, community building, and curiosity.
The Arena is all about open dialogue, celebrating different ideas, and making academic knowledge more accessible. It's like a comfy little corner of the internet where learning is fun, collaborative, and empowering. So, key takeaways from our deep dive into live streaming so far.
Well, the biggest one is that live streaming is multifaceted. Its impact is huge. It's way more than gaming. It's changing how we connect, create, and consume content in almost every aspect of our culture.
And we need to be aware of the opportunities and challenges it presents when it comes to mental health, diversity, and ethics. It requires thoughtful navigation, responsible practices, and an awareness of power dynamics.
But most importantly, live streaming gives marginalized communities a powerful platform to connect, create, and advocate for social change. It can challenge those old hierarchies, amplify diverse voices, and create a more inclusive and equitable world.
Great point.
Twitch Plays Pokemon was fascinating. It started as a social experiment and turned into a global phenomenon. It showed the power of collective action and the creative potential of live streaming.
Oh yeah, Twitch Plays Pokemon. Thousands of people trying to control one game. Chaos.
It was amazing to watch. It created a whole subculture. Memes, inside jokes, even religious interpretations of what happened in the game. Controlling a Pokemon became profound.
Online communities forming so quickly around shared experiences, even when it's unpredictable and chaotic. The Pokemon Company embraced it too. They saw the creative potential and the power of the fans.
A brand recognizing the importance of its fans and letting them participate in unexpected ways, letting go of control, embracing the creative energy of online culture.
Speaking of online culture, we have to talk about Twitch emotes. They're a language all their own.
More than images, really. They're cultural artifacts. They reflect the values, the humor, even the social and political events of the Twitch community. The whole PogChamp thing, remember?
Yeah. An emote based on a surprised face, right? Became a symbol of hype on Twitch. Then they removed it in 2021 after the person in the video made some controversial statements. A huge debate about the power of emotes, platform responsibility, and online representation.
It shows that even something small like an emote can be culturally significant and get tied to real-world events. The constant evolution and complexities of online communities in a nutshell.
I remember when they changed the Feels Bad Man emote. I felt like I'd lost part of my online vocabulary. It's weird how these simple images can mean so much.
They let people connect and express themselves. When they change or disappear, it's impactful, like losing a part of your language.
Anything else about speedrunning and emotes before we wrap up part 1?
Just remember, even playing video games or using emotes can be connected to bigger things, social and cultural forces. They're not isolated, they're part of a bigger system of online expression and interaction. Understanding that helps us see how live streaming is shaping our world in ways we don't even realize.
That's a great point, and a perfect way to lead into part 2 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned! Welcome back to your deep dive into live streaming culture. Last time we were talking about speedrunning and emotes, how even those things connect to bigger cultural stuff.
All about context. Before we go further, what stands out to you so far?
It's crazy how live streaming has blurred the lines. It's not just entertainment anymore. It's activism, education, healthcare, even surgery. It's changing how we work, learn, connect. Exciting, but it makes you think about responsibility, ethics, the future of these spaces.
Yeah, it's like a brand new media landscape. We're still figuring it all out. But let's get back to it. We've got a lot to cover.
Okay, so this part takes us into online communities, how live streaming creates connections, but also, how it can perpetuate bad behaviors and those existing power structures.
We talked about some of the darker sides, like swatting and harassment. Are there other examples of those negative things we should be aware of?
Sadly, yes. Hate speech and discrimination are still a big problem, especially towards marginalized groups. Live streaming can make those voices louder, create echo chambers where harmful ideas spread.
It's concerning. Platforms need to be proactive about moderation, create safe spaces for everyone.
Absolutely. It's not just removing content, it's about building a culture of inclusivity and respect. Platforms need to give marginalized communities the tools and policies they need to participate.
Tough challenge.
Yeah.
But we've seen streamers using their platforms to fight back, create positive change, right?
Yeah. Think about the streamers raising awareness for social justice, promoting mental health resources, advocating for LGBTQ+ rights. They're building communities, connecting with people, and amplifying voices.
Live streaming is a force for good. But there are tensions, too. One thing that came up a lot in our research is this idea of visibility as a double-edged sword. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. Live streaming can give you a platform, especially if you've been marginalized or excluded, but it also puts you at risk. Harassment, exploitation, even violence.
Like with women streamers, they're often harassed and abused online. And for LGBTQ+ streamers, it's even more complex. Identity, safety, and social acceptance all come into play.
It shows that power dynamics exist online, too. They can even be worse. So visibility can be good, but you have to be careful. Protect yourself and your community.
It's about balance, right?
Yeah.
Using visibility while also staying safe. Which leads to another interesting thing. Online communities and how live streaming affects them.
We talked about the feeling of belonging, that connection. But live streaming can also create specific subcultures, with their own norms, values, even languages.
Like the speedrunning community. Their own lingo, their jokes, their heroes, their villains. Shared passions can create really tight-knit communities online.
Powerful communities, too. Support, mentorship, collaboration, even creative opportunities. But there's a flip side.
What do you mean?
Sometimes those strong bonds and shared values can lead to insularity, exclusion. They become echo chambers, reinforcing biases, making it hard for new people to join.
So how do you balance community building with, the potential for that kind of exclusion?
Be mindful of how you participate. Be open to different opinions. Challenge your own biases. And make sure everyone feels welcome and respected. It's about creating those kinds of spaces.
Online communities are like any other social space. You have to put in the effort to make them inclusive.
Exactly. It takes constant reflection and a commitment to making things better. Okay, let's move on to live streaming as a performance, as entertainment.
I'm ready. We've talked about the serious stuff, but it's fun to watch too.
Right. One of the things that makes it so interesting is that you never know what's going to happen. That immediacy and authenticity, you don't get that with pre-recorded stuff.
It's like being in the streamer's world, experiencing it all with them. That creates a real bond between the streamer and the audience.
A parasocial relationship almost. Viewers feel like they know the streamer personally. That's what drives so much of the passion and engagement we see in these communities.
The line between performer and audience, it's blurred. It's not just one way anymore. Viewers can interact live, change the direction of the stream, even participate.
Twitch Plays Pokemon is a great example. Thousands of viewers all trying to control the game. Total chaos. But super entertaining and engaging.
We're all part of the performance now. It opens up so many creative possibilities.
Absolutely. And we're seeing new genres of live streaming entertainment popping up. Beyond gaming, there's music, cooking, art, fitness, all happening live with audience interaction.
It's amazing how diverse it's become. But with so much content, how do you stand out? How do you build an audience?
Good question. It is competitive. I think it comes down to personality, authenticity, and community. People like streamers who are genuine, relatable, and who create a welcoming space.
So it's not just about being good at a game or having fancy production. It's about connecting with your audience.
Yes, it's about trust, belonging, making people feel like they're part of something special.
It's all about human connection. That's what drives live streaming's growth, its creativity, and its potential to change the world.
Well said. Now let's talk about live streaming and politics and social movements too.
Okay, let's do it.
We talked about how it can be a tool for activism, giving a voice to marginalized communities and amplifying social justice movements.
Like during the Black Lives Matter protests, people saw the movement firsthand. Without the filters of traditional media, that direct connection with the audience was powerful.
It was a platform for citizen journalism, real-time updates, unfiltered perspectives from the people directly affected. It helped mobilize support and resources, connecting people globally.
Live streaming can disrupt traditional power structures, empower those grassroots movements. But it's not all good, right?
Misinformation and propaganda are a big concern. It can spread false narratives and manipulate people, especially with algorithms and echo chambers.
A double-edged sword. The same tech that helps good causes can be used to divide and spread harmful ideologies.
It's true. That's why we have to be careful, especially with live streaming. It's so fast-paced. We need to be critical thinkers, check multiple sources, and be skeptical of anything that seems too good to be true or too crazy.
It's about media literacy, knowing how to navigate all this information and decide what to believe and who to trust.
Yes, and it's even more important with political campaigns and elections. Live streaming is a big part of that now.
Candidates using it to connect with voters, share their ideas, even hold rallies online. It's changing how campaigns work and how people engage with politics.
And it raises questions about transparency, accountability, manipulation. How do we make sure live streaming is used responsibly and ethically in politics? How do we prevent misinformation and protect our elections?
Big questions. We need to talk about this, figure it out. Policymakers, tech companies, and especially everyday people who use these technologies.
Totally agree. It's a conversation we need to have now. Our democracy might depend on it.
Wow. That's a powerful thought. Live streaming is more than entertainment. It's shaping our culture, our politics, even how we understand or what it means to be human in the digital age.
And this is just the start. Live streaming is still new. Imagine what happens as it evolves. With virtual reality, artificial intelligence, who knows what's next?
Exciting, but also a little scary to think about. One thing's for sure, it's going to be a wild ride.
Hold on tight. Back for part 3 after the break.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into live streaming. It's been a wild ride, right? From those early days of internet cams to politics and social movements. Wow.
Yeah, we've been all over the place. But there's still more to talk about. Emerging trends, the future of live streaming, and of course, all those ethical challenges that come with it.
Okay, let's get into it. One thing that's been on my mind is how quickly things are changing. It's like there's always something new happening. What are you seeing out there that's really exciting?
Well, live streaming is merging with other technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality. That's really cool. Imagine going to a concert in VR, feeling like you're actually in the crowd, or watching a game with AR, seeing stats and analysis right on top of the action.
That's next level. Like live streaming's breaking down the walls between the real and the digital, creating those super immersive experiences that used to be sci-fi.
Exactly. And it's not just entertainment either. Think about VR live streaming for education. Students could go to lectures or visit historical sites virtually from anywhere. Or AR for collaborating remotely. Teams working together as if they were in the same room.
The possibilities are mind-blowing. But with all that innovation, we got to think about ethics.
Right.
What are some of the concerns as live streaming gets more real and interactive?
Privacy is a big one. As live streams become more tied to our physical world, there's more potential for data collection and surveillance. We need to protect our privacy and make sure our data isn't being misused.
It's like that panopticon thing we talked about, but even more intense. As those lines between real and virtual blur, we need to set clear boundaries and keep things safe.
For sure. And then there's authenticity, manipulation. As technology gets better, it's easier to create fake content We need to get better at figuring out what's real and what's not.
Deep fakes, but even crazier. It makes you think about trust, accountability, and the potential for things to go wrong.
Yeah, and it's not just about people trying to spread fake news. Think about AI in live streams, like chatbots. Is it clear who or what you're actually talking to? Those interactions have to be ethical and transparent. We need to respect people's dignity.
That's a really interesting point. AI is getting more integrated into live streaming. We have to make sure those interactions are done right.
Definitely. And as these platforms get bigger and more powerful, we have to hold them accountable. They need to create safe and inclusive spaces for everyone, address harassment, discrimination, all that harmful stuff.
That's a lot to tackle. But if live streaming is going to be a force for good, it's essential.
It is. And the key is working together. We need open conversations, policymakers, tech companies, content creators, everyone. We have to shape the future of live streaming together, make it something that benefits us all.
Like we're all building this new world together, making sure it's a place where everyone feels welcome, respected, and empowered. Wow, at the end of all this, I'm feeling inspired, but also a little overwhelmed.
I get it. Live streaming is huge and complicated. I think the main takeaway is that we're just at the beginning. It's only going to get bigger, have a bigger impact on society.
Full of possibilities, but also challenges. We all have a role to play in shaping its future, make it ethical, inclusive, and something that ultimately benefits humanity.
Well said. So, as you keep exploring live streaming, stay curious, be critical, and get involved. Ask questions, challenge what you see, and speak up for the kind of online world you want.
And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more captivating deep dives like this one. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.